Good evening, everyone. We are back concluding our Studio Ghibli retrospective of what was, I think it was about 25 films we did total, including the Red Turtle. We sort of threw that in last minute. So, yeah, roughly about 24, 25 weeks we've been doing this, which is the best part of half a year, really, isn't it? It's gone exceptionally quick. I know we said that for the Disney one. The Disney one was a lot longer. That was like 64
That
plus
was like
weeks.
7 years. That was a long time.
That still blew my mind because we finished that at the beginning of this year. We finished that at about January or February this year, and we started that in the October of 2023. And when I sort of said that out loud, I was like, holy shit, time just moves so quick. But we're done. All the Studio Ghibli films, and we are concluding sort of in a fitting way, really, with Hayao Miyazaki's quote-unquote final film. We'll see if he makes another one, which is The Boy and the Heron. This came out 2 years ago, so relatively recently in 2023, and won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. I think it was up against... it was either would it have been Across the Spider-Verse? I think it was up against. I'll find out exactly the films it was up against. This would have been. Let me just have a quick look. 2023. Yeah. Okay. So it was up against Elemental. That's Pixar. A film called Nimona, which I've never heard of that one actually. Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And this one won. So bit of a swan song, really, for Hayao Miyazaki in many ways when you look at what the film's actually trying to say. But I think this is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. This film apparently had no marketing as well. We watched a trailer, but the trailer itself was really just a trailer showing all of Miyazaki's previous works, which is actually kind of fitting when you look at what this film's doing by the end of it. But they intentionally didn't market this film. They wanted it to just kind of stand on its own, like, oh yeah, boom, there's a new Miyazaki film's out, a new
They had
Studio
a lot
Ghibli.
of confidence in this fucking thing doing that, didn't they?
Yes, and this film was in production for a long time as well, hell of a long time. This was about 7 years in the making, this one. Now, Miyazaki back in the day apparently could get out about, I think, like, 10 minutes of animation or something I can't remember anyway. I think it was like 10 minutes of animation in a month. But in his older age, he could only get a minute of animation done in a month. This was also delayed with the whole COVID thing as well around 2020, so that pushed it back to, and I think it probably went over budget as well, because that's essentially why we have Studio Ghibli on Netflix. They had to cut a deal with streaming services to get money, essentially, that they then put back into this project.
Having not go over budget is just not made it as long as it fucking was.
Yeah, it was another, just over 2 hours, this one as well, wasn't it?
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think one of the things that, I mean, they were all good in their own respect. Well, I say all, the ones that were good were good. But I think one of the big things was a lot of them, and we've said this, are just too long. There was a lot of that. I know it's not a Western thing. I know it's, but I do think these movies have been for a specific type of person. And it's kind of like, for years, I never saw any Ghibli movies because I liked darker things. I know it was more whimsical, and I like the whimsical sort of stuff. Like I do like a lot of that, but I like things a lot darker. And I saw all this kind of things that I thought, oh, they're just kind of childlike, and there was a lot of them, and it was just, it's for a certain type of person who likes that certain style, which is great. I just, because they were so long, I think it's one of them where they're not really an easy watch. We go, oh, that was a good movie. They're either end up being great or a lot of them become forgettable.
Some feel a little inaccessible, and I think this is probably one of the biggest examples of that, actually, in a way. This film really is just kind of like an extended metaphor. Well, a 2 and a bit hour extended metaphor. I'd say, I mean, if I just go over the plot for anyone who doesn't know, it follows a boy named Mojito, which I thought was funny, Mojito, who moves to the countryside after his mother's death. and he discovers an abandoned tower near his home and enters a fantastical world with a talking grey heron. There's a lot more to it than that, but if you boil it down, that's essentially what it's about. So when I read that, I thought, oh, okay, we're doing another Spirited Away kind of film.
What I thought, and you could see it in the designs as well, like the like the wrinkles on a lot of the older people. You can see a lot of that. So there's a lot of so there were aspects of it that, you know, showcased that, which I thought was really cool. And from that description, I thought this is going to be really fun. It just wasn't as fun. It was quite Howl's Moving Castle, where you're like, it's just not. There was a lot of unforgettable characters, a lot of, like, I didn't feel myself caring towards the end for a lot of them. I was like, okay, cool, it does what it does, you know.
You mean forgettable characters? You said there was a lot of unforgettable characters. Do you mean forgettable characters? Yeah, I was going to say.
This is movie 24. I'm getting words wrong.
This is one of those frustrating films where I will hold my hands up and say, I feel like I need to watch this one again at some point, because there are a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of hidden meanings and stuff, as is often the case with a lot of Miyazaki's work. And I think this is probably chief among them in that respect, in that it does serve as his swan song. And when we talk about the themes in it, we'll talk about a few of them. I don't understand anywhere. I don't understand about half of them. After this film concluded, I sent you a message saying, what the hell was that about? I was confused. I was disorientated. I did feel the runtime of this one about halfway through. I was starting to check out a little bit. There was a lot of scenes that felt like it was random for random's sake a little bit, which we talk about Alice in Wonderland can work sometimes if it is just intentionally random. But this one was rather just head scratching a lot of the time. I was like, well, what's the significance of that?
I don't mind that sort of stuff, but just no one, like, I didn't care. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't anything that was like, oh, but that's fun. It was just kind of like, okay, you know, and that's the thing. And like we said about like Alice in Wonderland, the thing is, when things happen and they're random, they're fun and they're like, okay. And like I left, I remember when I first, you know, when I read that book, I did leave going, don't actually really have a clue what I just read there. But it was a nice kind of like, but just so many moments that I was just like, you know what, that he's got a point. Like the characters were saying nonsensical things. You're like, he's got a point. You don't know why, but you know that they've got a point. And it was weird and it was really cool like that. Whereas this was just, as I say, throwing random things in there. I've always said over and over again, things don't always need to either make sense or need to push the plot all the time. Like sometimes you can have things just happen. You don't always, you know what I mean? I know like when you've got an hour and a half or 2 hours to say something, you want things to move the plot along. Like I get that, but I do think to keep things human and to keep things feeling natural, you do sometimes need things of like, does that move the plot along? No. Was it fun? Yeah. And that's it. That's all you need. But I just think this was kind of like, I just didn't care. It was kind of like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of motive throughout the whole thing.
Not to tar all anime with the same brush, but this is an example of why I found it a real struggle in my life to connect with anime of any kind. So I've done well to get through all the Studio Ghibli films. This is progress for me.
I get what you mean, because you might have over the top things, or because we talk about like Kill Bill with the whole like the grenade thing and how it went on and on. It was just over the top, and you didn't really buy it because a lot of it was like, well, that wouldn't happen. I like that with a lot of stuff because it's just over the top action. But when you get things like this, it's just like, yeah, but I don't care. It does then feel like that. Whereas I like things that are just over the top. You're like, yeah, but that looked cool though. You got to admit that kind of thing or whatever. But this just didn't have that. It just kind of, it did things. And that was my reaction.
For me, when it comes to anime or things in general, really, you can have something that's completely outlandish and wacky and over the top and everything. But there has to be, as you said, there have to be engaging characters or an interesting story or somewhat of a through line, some explanation for the crazy shit.
Yeah, good dialogue. This didn't have good dialogue.
I need something to tether it to, not reality, because I'm not one of those boring people that, believe it or not, I've spoken to people that hate any form of escapism, any form of film to go, oh, well, that's far-fetched. Oh, well, that couldn't happen. I was like, well, live your boring fucking mundane life then. I'm not one of those people. But when you get crazy shit that's just thrown at you and you've had no explanation, it hasn't eased you into this world, you don't understand the rules of this world, then I have a sense of disconnect from it. And I did have that a number of times in this film where Mahito just does kind of, it's very dreamlike. Like he'll just enter a new scenario. There'll be a new character he's with, like a new companion for a short span of time. And then they'll enter another room and it's like, oh yeah, the rocks are angry at us because we're tampering with the rules of this world and the rocks are rebelling. I'm like, okay. And then there's perplexing scenes where so essentially he goes into, what would you describe, this kind of limbo world, this fantasy world that sort of serves as this almost like this land between living and dead, I suppose, this state of limbo. And his stepmom has gone in there and she's disappeared. So he goes in after her to try and bring her back to the land of the living, the regular world. And she's sort of like laid out in this hospital bed because she's with child. And they're forbidden to go in there. They're forbidden to go into the birthing room. This is like very taboo, they keep saying. And then she has this like monstrous freak out. You got all these like paper things that are attacking him and trying to push him away and get him out of the door. And then she just snaps and says like, I hate you. Like, I've always hated you. And I was like, what was the significance of that? Because by the end of the film, she doesn't, but there's just random scenes like that where I'm trying to justify an explanation. And I've gone to comment threads on a bunch of YouTube videos dissecting this film, analyzing this film. The Boy and the Heron is this unsung masterpiece kind of thing. And you're reading all these different comments and everyone's given different explanations for this. And that's fine. When a film can do that and it can generate different, ideas in people and different ways that people can deconstruct things, I'm all for that. But we talked about this in a previous Studio Ghibli film, and I forget which one it was. It can sort of crest the line sometimes of getting into a little bit of English literature, artsy wankery analysis. And some of it can be justified. Other times, Shakespeare will write, oh, the curtains were red. And, hundreds of years later, people are scratching their beards going like, oh, what is the significance of the red curtain? It could be just a fucking color. He might have just needed a descriptive and he went with that color, and I feel like some people really go out of their way. And there's so many videos on YouTube of this film of people of deconstructing it.
I think I said before, that's one of the reasons I like things not to have meaning sometimes.
Yes.
So it's like tattoos, like sometimes, like, because there's this whole thing where people are like, what does it mean and all that, and I'm like, it's just cool, that's it, doesn't need to. And I like that. I think because that overanalyzing really pisses me off.
But all the videos on YouTube are exactly the same, which always makes me laugh. And it's not just for Studio Ghibli. There's a bunch of these like really, really like in-depth analysis ones, like absolute artistic wankery, where I'm going to have to do this close to the microphone to simulate what it sounds like here. And I've got to assume the voice. They go, "The Boy and the Heron is the unsung masterpiece of Hayao Miyazaki." And they talk in this like really just like wanky voice that pisses me off. Kind of gives me the creeps a little bit as well with how they talk about it. And it'll go on for 45 minutes to an hour.
Remember Of Mice and Men? That's a really good story. But English classes just made it shit. It made when I was at school, I didn't like Shakespeare. But when you get older, you realize it's actually pretty like fucking good. But when you're at school and it's overanalyzed, you're just like, I really don't care. And you just hate that name.
Yeah. Positives about this film. Hand-drawn animation. I like that it reunited a lot of the old staff that had worked with Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli before they returned to do this film. I wouldn't have been able to have slept at night had I have known that Earwig and the Witch would have been the last Studio Ghibli film to end this like incredible career, this incredible filmography.
That even a Studio Ghibli film?
Well, sorry?
Was that even Studio Ghibli?
Yeah. Oh, it was.
Was it?
So I'm glad that this one sort of put things right. And the animation is absolutely stellar. Specifically, I feel like it opens with all guns blazing a little bit. The opening of the film is gorgeous. There's this flashback to the war.
I was going to basically say, not the opposite, but the beginning with the sirens, and I thought, okay, there's going to be some unique animation, but it eventually was like, it looked, I don't know if lackluster is the right word, it just looked very average. I didn't think it was stellar. I thought it looked cool, but we've seen better. I thought it was very average, and also from that first shot, I thought, okay, we're going to get you some unique kind of like wish, something that's a bit different, something a bit, and it was just kind of like, nah, that's all right. that's how I saw it. I didn't think it was anything magnificent. I think there was some things, like I say, like when you see like the wrinkles on certain people and stuff. I think there was a lot that was good, but I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it stood out to be. I think it was just very bang average.
Mm. See the bit at the beginning where we see the Pacific, like during the Pacific War, and Mahito's like trying to get to his mom, and there's crowds and people, the sirens, the absolute chaos that is war, and that's shown perfectly in the animation. It's almost like this. It's almost like smudged, and it like the chaos of the imagery sort of like smears all over the screen. And I haven't seen any. The thing that it kind of reminded me of was, you know, that bit that we both really enjoyed from The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, where she breaks free and she's just kind of like frantically running into the night, and the brushstrokes are like really frantic. It sort of reminded me of that similar vibe, and I really enjoyed that. And then after that, I'm not going to say it like snaps back to generic animation, because there's nothing generic really about Studio Ghibli. Well, apart from maybe the Tales from Earthsea or whatever, that was a little bit generic. But I still think that the animation is absolutely gorgeous. The colors pop, the detailing on the characters. Yeah, I'm not sure where I'd rank this in terms of like the best animation, if we were going to sort of categorize it like that. But I still thought it looked the part.
Say lower down. I would say lower down. I don't think it does anything amazing. I think it just does what it does. It's like watching a general cartoon where you would say, "Oh, it looks good," and you're like, "It's all right." And that's what it is. It's not. I think if this is the only one we saw, maybe. But I mean, there are certain moments when, like, you see, like the sun rays and stuff, like they're drawn really, really well. But it's just, like I say, having watched all of them, I was going to say a lot. It's generally all of them. Having watched all of them, it's just bang average. I think it's one of the lower down ones because it hasn't done anything for me. But then, if this was one of the first I'd seen, would my opinion be a bit different on it?
That's fair. We've got Bath Time, who says, "Merry Christmas, you big lesbians." Yeah, we're not the lads anymore. We're the big lesbians.
And now I have a Christmas jumper too.
You do. You're looking very festive. I'm not. I'm wearing a Chris Holmes shirt, so I could have worn my Die Hard shirt, I suppose. Missed a trick there, didn't I? But there will be more videos out before Christmas, so I still have time. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Bath Time. I haven't forgotten about the collab, and I've actually got 2 full weeks off now over Christmas and New Year. So
why didn't they call where they made Coca-Cola the collab? That should have been.
Maybe they do. Maybe there's like a sign above one of the doors or something.
Every time I go to work, it's at the collab every time. No one will get it.
Let's talk about the sort of, well, I mean, there's so many themes in this. That whole film is one big metaphor.
I liked.
Joe Hisaishi, yes. Yeah.
Yes, that one I will say, because I know I always say about music, I'm very like with a lot of stuff. I think it's just because I think my expectations are so high with some stuff, and I think a lot have. But then again, I have spoke positively of the music in some of these things. I just haven't spoke positively on probably any of the ones that you've spoke positively on. like even Lord of the Rings. I was like, that's all right.
I'm always like listening to the music straight away. Like my ears just straight to what it sounds like.
No, it is good. I did enjoy the music in this. I think it stood out more than a lot have to me. But yeah, I think the music in this, it was one of the points that I was like, you know what, this is actually a good point I would make about the movie.
It felt quite minimalistic to me at times, like very sort of simple chords and just a little melody. Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, it was nice again that Hisaishi joined Miyazaki again.
People that fuck midgets say that less is more. Just a thought.
Where do I go from there?
We'll just continue like it just never happened.
Sure. Comment at home. Let us know what you think. So the main metaphor of this, I mean, there is loads. For example, like Mahito can be seen as a stand-in for Miyazaki himself. Similar upbringing in some respects. I did think it was a little bit weird and a little bit dodgy in this, that the father, his wife dies, Mahito's mom, and then he shacks up with her sister. So Mahito's new stepmom is his aunt. That's a little bit strange.
I'm trying to feel like if I've seen that before in a movie. I probably have, but I'm trying to think where.
That's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird, a little bit sinister in some respects. But anyway.
At least it's not her mum. At least it's not her mum.
I guess so. Yeah, it's so a lot of it is really his is Mahito's acceptance of sort of accepting his aunt slash stepmom into his life, because there's a lot of distance at the beginning that you can sense, and I thought that was handled very well. Like, my favorite part of the film actually wasn't any of the fantastical world stuff, believe it or not. It was the stuff where he goes to this manor home at the beginning, and she's trying her best to integrate him into her life, and he's having some problems at school and some resentment towards her, some unspoken resentment. And all of this he kind of works through in the fantasy world. But the main thing that I guess I have an appreciation for, but it does feel like it's almost sort of arbitrarily tacked on to the end of the film. You have this idea of this what was his name, like the grand uncle, this sort of wizard character, this like this architect of this world, the person who has created this world. Now, to me, this is the Miyazaki standard, and this is where you have the commentary on his work, his legacy, Ghibli, and the future of Ghibli in general, what he's trying to say. So he's creating this world by balancing these different shaped, almost like Jenga blocks, on top of one another. And there's 13 of them. There's 13 blocks that he's stacked up, which symbolizes the structure of his fantasy world that he's created. Now, there's 13 of them. That number is significant because the number of films that Miyazaki has directed or been a part of with Studio Ghibli is 13. So it's almost like Miyazaki's saying, this foundation, this structure that is Studio Ghibli and my legacy is built upon these 13 blocks, which could be viewed as a little bit egotistical, because Miyazaki wasn't the only director of Studio Ghibli. You had Isao Takahata, you had the guy who directed Whisper of the Heart, who tragically passed away. Goro's directed a few films, not the best ones, but his name's in there.
Who did that song, Listen to Your Heart?
That was Roxette.
That always comes into my head.
Listen to your heart when he's calling for you. Great song.
I'm like, oh, listen to your heart. No, that's not the song. That's not the movie. But yeah.
So yeah, he's created this world, and he's this old failing man who's realizing that his time is numbered, and he's looking for a successor. He's looking for someone else to build their own tower and continue the legacy of this world and the preservation of it. Into this, this prosperous world. And Mahito is that suitor. He is that person. He is the one he wants to be the successor. And ultimately the end of the film is Mahito turning this offer down and saying, I don't want any part of it. You have the King Parakeet character. The parakeet thing was weird to me. You have the King Parakeet character who hurriedly tries to build something which immediately topples, and everything kind of falls apart. But the sort of the meaning at the end of the film, the message at the end of the film is, that's okay, go on and build your own legacies and build them in your own image, kind of thing. You don't have to continue my legacy. So it's almost like Miyazaki, because Studio Ghibli doesn't have a successor, they offered it to Miyazaki's son Goro, and he turned it down, and he's been quite public about how he's hated the films that he's made, Tales from Earthsea, Earwig and the Witch, and From Up on Poppy Hill.
You didn't like Earwig and the Witch? Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, right. I mean, critically panned and everything, but that, I think that probably also did go to him sort of distancing himself from his father's company, and he doesn't want to be any part of it. So at the moment, Studio Ghibli is, I won't say it's in limbo, but it's in this strange situation at the moment. So in 2023, it became a subsidiary of Nippon Television Holdings, and they've got a new chairman, like a new CEO. Miyazaki's still sort of there as this, I forgot the exact title, as an honorary chairman. But that's it. Like, there's no future films that have been announced or in production.
Isn't that what they do for kids when they're just like, oh, you're an honorary this, just because, like, you're not really, but we'll give you the honor because you're a kid.
Yeah,
It's
weird, but I think that's ultimately what this film is trying to say. It's trying to it is kind of bolted onto the end a little bit. I felt that whole grandmaster uncle wizard thing creating the world, and again, you could view it as quite egotistical on Miyazaki's part saying that, oh, the foundation of this company is built on me. He's definitely one of the central pillars to it, but in my opinion, he's not the only one. That's not to take away from, you know, his genius and his vision and everything that he has done for the company. But yeah, I think if you don't know about Studio Ghibli and you don't know about that,
say that about Iron Maiden when he
probably, yeah. And here's the thing: like, if you're watching this film, and I didn't know all that shit when I was watching the film. That's, you know, this is all stuff that I've gleaned from various video essays that I watched after the fact, and then you going, oh yeah, that kind of does line up there. But if you don't know anything about that, I think this film is going to be very, very inaccessible to you. I think it's going to alienate you. As I say, I don't think the character writing on the surface is strong enough. And a lot of the videos that I've seen of people praising this film are going straight for the themes. Oh, well, it's thematically strong and the significance to Miyazaki. I'm like, okay, strip all that away and let's boil it down to the actual film itself.
Yeah.
Is there any good stuff in there?
There wasn't a single character that left me going, I wonder what they do. I wonder what happens. I wonder. There wasn't any of that. And I think a lot of things, it's like good comedy shows as well. Because obviously they've got to be funny, you know, to be a comedy. But I've watched tons of comedy shows that are like, they make me laugh. Like, they're like, oh yeah. But I care about what happens to the characters. I care about the situation that they're in. I think, oh, I want to see how they get out of that. And that's the thing. So you've got to have characters that are memorable. You've got to have, you know, situations where you want to see what happens, not just like, I really couldn't care less where this goes. You know, it's like games as well. Yes, you've got to have good battle systems and all that, but you know, I've picked up games before where it's not the most enjoyable in the world to play, but the characters, I'm like, but I want to see where this character goes. I played a game a few years ago, one of those Tales games. Didn't like the gameplay at all, and I just couldn't get used to it. But I liked where the characters were going. I was like, I want to see this through with these characters. Granted, that game I got halfway through before I went, you know what, I can't be dealing with this battle system anymore. But it got me going because I wanted to see where these characters were going. I wanted to see more of this character, and this just didn't leave me with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that, you know, there's always going to be places where movies or games or books or anything falter. There's always going to be weaknesses, whether it be a badly written book where you're like, he's not the best written, but I care about these characters, or, you know, like I say, a video game where it's like, it's not the best gameplay, but you've got to have something to tie you to it. And I just didn't think there really was any of that.
Yeah, I think for me, and I've never really had this with a lot of the other Ghibli films. There might be a few if I really think about it, but this is the first one where it ended, and I feel like I need to watch that. I need subsequent viewings of this film to really form an opinion on it. I was very much alienated by this film a little bit.
Like Last Jedi.
No, I think my opinions were pretty much sorted as soon as I came out of that film. Yeah, but with other Studio Ghibli films, I'm pretty clear cut when it's finished. I'm like, I either like it, I didn't. I was kind of indifferent on there. There was good bits to it with this. With this one, I'm like, I get all the metaphors that it's trying to say, but it didn't really land with me emotionally. I never really connected with it as much as I felt like I should, or a lot of other people have based on the comments. So I probably will go back and rewatch this one at some point. It won't be anytime soon because we've got a lot of stuff that we need to watch. But I do think I will dip back to this one at some point just to really form my opinions on it. And I guess sort of tying this Studio Ghibli thing up in general, I think I will go back to a number of these films. We will be doing a ranking before the new year. We do want to just sort of tie everything up with Studio Ghibli. So there will be like a little bit of an epilogue for Studio Ghibli. We're finishing all the reviews today, but we will do like a little ranking list before the year's out. So it'll be interesting to see how everything stacks up. I think we both know what our number one picks are going to be, our S tier picks. But it'll be nice to get back to some of those tier lists and sort of put everything into a tangible list, you know, in front of us and see how it all checks out. Before we sort of do our final thoughts on Studio Ghibli, I just want to bring up a comment from Carl who says, if I don't catch you guys before the big day, just wanted to wish you both a great Christmas. Thanks for all the content over the year. Wish you nothing but the best for 2026. You both deserve it. Well, thanks, man. And, you know, we always say, I appreciate how long you've stuck with the channel, not just this channel, but the previous channel that shall not be named. And yeah, no, great to see you on here, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, hope you have a great Christmas and New Year. I mean, I will be live tomorrow night and a couple of times before Christmas, but yeah, if you don't get
Yeah,
time
but
to
it's
tune in,
Avatar,
that's
so it doesn't
absolutely
really
fine.
matter, does it?
Yeah, I've got to go and see Avatar Fire and Ash, whatever the fuck it's got. Avatar 3. And I've checked the runtime of it, like what time the film starts on my Odeon app and what time it finishes, and it's a long one. And I went to see Whole Bloody Affair with you, and that's gonna feel like an hour compared to what Avatar is gonna feel like, especially because everyone's saying this is the longest one and the worst one. The other two were excruciating, and I hated both of them. So I'm fucked. I might not make it out alive tomorrow night,
I
but
saw
in
one
case I
review
do,
saying it was it was the what did the review say? It said this movie is the reason, it shows you the reason movies do not need to be
yeah,
198 minutes or something, and it's like, but they can be.
yeah.
They can be. I think anything over 5 hours is pushing it, but they can be. But it's, do you know what I mean? But the point is, like you say, like Kill Bill, it shows they can be. If the fact that it's like no movie should be, it's like, well, that doesn't really say much for it, does it?
3 hours and 17 minutes plus over half hour of trailers and
I could
commercials.
watch The Wolf of Wall Street again and have a good time.
Exactly. See, that's a film that's 3 hours. That doesn't feel like 3 hours. That moves that's a breeze to get through that film. Love it. Let's just sum up our sum up our thoughts on Studio Ghibli in general, because we both came to this franchise having seen either a few, barely any.
I think like I said before, I think you have to be into a certain type of thing to enjoy a lot of them. I think they're very, because the thing about like Disney is they're an easy watch. They're a nice fairy tale, or you got some of the weird 3D ones that weren't like fairy tale wise and stuff, but like it's a nice family friendly watch. Whereas there's more deep and meaningful kind of things like anime always has. So you've got to have a certain mindset, I think. And I do think the runtime is a bit long for a lot of them, even if they are. Some of them warranted it in the sense that you go, do you know what, I enjoyed it all the way through. But again, you have to have that certain mentality. Like obviously we watch these for a reason, you know. I think if you're just going to go into just for a casual watch, I think it's a harder set of films to get into in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. And they are very varied, I would say. A lot of the subject matter continues, and a lot of them, we've talked about that before, in terms of very more often than not, there's a commentary on war and the horrors of war. Grave of the Fireflies, especially, exemplifies that. There's a lot of man versus nature and finding a balance between the two, that just one isn't good. It has to be a mix of both. There's a lot of commonalities there. But then you also get very much drama centric ones, like dramas, just like slice of life movies, very very simple stories set in an idyllic setting, and very different. Yeah, exactly, just very very different from what we've seen from a lot of like Western animations. These definitely do have an identity of their own, and I'm really really glad we've got through the whole lot of the films, because the Studio Ghibli films have sort of been hanging over me like a bit of a shadow, really, just saying that, oh, I'm a huge fan of animation, and then someone says like, oh, have you seen Studio Ghibli? And I've seen like 3 or 4 of them. Now we can say that we've seen all of them. We got through the whole list, and there were ones that are absolutely fantastic and are definitely up there in terms of probably some of my favorite animated films of all time. So yep, Totoro, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, probably to name the top 3. There you go. I'm just spoiling the first 3 picks of my tier list right there, probably. But even the bad ones, they're all part of the collection, aren't they? So you go through they're actually. We were talking about this before. Do you think there are more bad ones than good ones? I don't think that's true. I think some of them are a little bit. I'm kind of indifferent to them, but I still acknowledge them as good films.
I wouldn't say there are more bad ones, but I do think there are a few boring ones. I think, like, it's because a lot of them, like, because they're just, yeah, I think they're not necessarily bad. Some of them, like Pompoko, I wouldn't say bad, but it was just quite boring. And I think there was a lot of that going on, but I don't think I wouldn't say a lot of there were really many inherently bad where you think, oh, this is just terrible, it's just this. I think boring. I think this one in particular is one that is I wouldn't say inherently bad. That would be wrong to say, but more sort of like, yeah. Whereas there's some where like Pom Coco, like I keep mentioning that one because my only opinion on it was like, this is boring. Like there wasn't a lot for me to say on it. I might have been harsh with when I spoke about it first, is what I'm saying. But they're not. It's not necessarily bad. It's just there were a few boring ones, whereas like Disney had a few bad ones.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing. So yeah, there were more like really good ones, and I think the ranking thing will be really cool to kind of go back through them. Like you say, it's not like we have a nostalgia thing to it, though. Whereas like, you know, Disney we could rank again tomorrow, for instance, and a lot of them we know like the back of our hand, that sort of thing, rather than, you know, whereas this, it's like, hang on, I watched that, and you might have, you know, it was like a year ago almost, so I'd just rewatch clips and go, hang on, what happened here? Like Pom Poko is one, because I found it quite boring. A lot of it's gone out of my head, so I will need to recap on it and just be like, let me just go back and where would I put it, sort of thing. Whereas, you know, obviously we didn't have that with Disney. It's more, but they were just, yeah, there wasn't anything. I don't think there's anything bad, really. There was one or two. My Name is Artist again. Was that really bad? I wouldn't say bad. Again, it was just a bit
compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah,
which is what our tier list is going to be for, right? But no, this is I've crossed all these off on Letterboxd now. That was a big achievement. I was like, it's official. It's on my Letterboxd. All of them are done. And yeah, I guess we'll keep our eyes peeled for any other Studio Ghibli films that come out in the future. As I say, there's no announcements at the moment, so we're sort of in limbo at the moment when it comes to Studio Ghibli. But nonetheless, another retrospective done and dusted, a big animation one. And we've got a big animation one planned for next year as well. So we're going to be covering all of the Pixar films. We never even intended. There's like we said we wanted to do Studio Ghibli, and it just
as well. We didn't intend. It happened, and it was beautiful.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, for the anniversary, yeah. We have this weird thing where we'll just do a video and we'll go, oh, it's some kind of anniversary of it. So we knew we wanted.
I did that with Dragon Ball when, so I watched Dragon Ball a lot, obviously when I was a kid, and then they brought out the new movie many years after it ended. But for some reason, I was in college when that happened, and I just got this idea. I was like, you know, I'm going to watch Dragon Ball the way through. Got into like 2 or 3 episodes in, they announced a new movie. I went, oh, bro, I did it.
Oh, wow.
It was great. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice to do.
We planned the Disney one. I think that's fair to say, for the 100th anniversary. We knew we were going to do that, and then we I won't say we filled time. We wanted to do the Don Bluth one, so that was another big one that we got done. And then we knew we had Ghibli planned, and then we checked and we was like, well, it's actually weirdly worked out because it's coming up to the 40th anniversary. And then we knew we would probably have to touch Pixar at some point because we've done Disney, we've done all the other big ones. We need to do Pixar. And we checked and we were like, oh yeah, next year it's the 40th anniversary. So it's just kind of worked out that way. So Pixar will be
it's a good thing Pixar's not called kids. Because when you say it's a good
I realize when I said that, yeah, probably not the best choice of words. But Pixar will be starting beginning of February. I'm still going to be bringing some content out in January. I think we mentioned we're going to take a little bit of a break because we've been pretty much non-stop on this for quite a few years now, looking at all the Disney things, the Don Bluth, straight onto this one. So then we're going to have a bit of a breather over the Christmas period, New Year, come back strong in 2026. So we've got that planned. There's a few other retrospectives I want to do, and we're going to be bringing back the tier lists a little bit more. So we'll see how the Studio Ghibli one goes, if people are interested in seeing more of those. And of course, if you want to see any type of video or see us cover something that's a little bit different on the channel, let us know. We're open to suggestions, and I do want to try and push the channel in slightly different directions. Not, you know, I'm not abandoning film talk or anything like that, but I do want to try some new things a little bit in 2026 if possible. Yeah, and just see what works. And as long as we've still got people here who want to see us prattle on about films, and of course join in the conversation as well, we'll still be here to do it. So we're not going anywhere.
We can rank species of bird.
That's going to be a long list.
Chickens versus what other birds are there?
Herons. There you
go. Yeah. Herons versus penguins. That'll be fun.
Right. Okay, I think we'll round it off there for Studio Ghibli. So let us know your thoughts on The Boy and the Heron, if you've seen it, and Studio Ghibli in general. Let's take this opportunity to just like look at the whole, you know, catalogue of films as a whole. And do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. Speaking of live streams, discussions, and movie reviews, that's exactly what I'll be doing tomorrow. Unfortunately, flying solo on this one. You get out of Avatar 3, you lucky man. Unfortunately, I'm not so lucky. So I will be seeing it. I think I've got, is it 6:30? 6:30-ish. I'm booked in to see it. And that I'll have to probably set the stream up for 11 p.m. So it's going to be a late one. I'm going to be very tired. I'm going to be very exasperated and probably a little bit ranty and a little bit angry. So we're going to be talking about Avatar 3. You watch, everyone praised the first two and I hated them. Everyone's shitting on this one. Watch me have a complete 180. This will probably be my favorite one of the three. We'll see. Could go either way.
Either, is it? So
yeah. And I guess if people aren't around this weekend, with Christmas coming up and whatnot, we'll take this opportunity to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas. Have a very fun but safe time. And New Year as well. I'll still be bringing out videos before then. But yeah, hope you have the best time. And you and yours are all doing well. So thank you to everyone who's joined us on this amazing retrospective that is Studio Ghibli. And we'll be back very soon with some more videos for you. Take care, everyone.